Hey, good morning. Yes, it is Friday, the 23rd. Oh, girls. Yes, today's Friday, guys, for you guys that work 5 days a week. So I thought today we would talk about, tips on, because fall's coming. So we need to start looking at our equipment and deciding what should and needs to be done on a regular basis. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. My name is Eric, and this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Friday, August 23rd. Today we're going to talk about kind of quick tips for fall services, and because fall's coming, right? And you want to keep your engine, your lawnmowers, summer equipment, trimmers in top-notch shape, rototillers. And I tell people, I get this question a lot. When should I do a service on my piece of equipment? And I explain to them, it doesn't matter when you do it. You can do it in the spring, whether you do it or a shop does it. You can do it in the spring. You can do it in the fall, midsummer, midwinter. The main thing is that you do a good service on that engine. That you replace the oil in the oil filter. Throw a new fuel filter on for what it costs. I know some, Jason, with the spark plugs, but I just like the idea of putting two new plugs in. I know $8 is $8. That's what we charge for two. But I don't have any. I used to have, every so often, we'd have plug breakdowns, all right? After we did a service, our customer would take it home and then use it for a while and never fails. They call us and say, hey, something's not running right. And it ends up being a plug that, is just breaking down. They have a life. Yes, some last for 30 years. But the ones that are lasting for 30 years are the old plugs from years ago. They're not the ones that you're buying today. Nothing seems to have a shelf life with what you buy today. You got your main fuel filter. And that fuel filter is there to catch contaminants, dirt, particles. And it depends on what fuel filter you use and the micros that it is. And the micros just says how small a contaminant it can capture. And then you also have to worry about flow rate. Now, if you guys are interested, I can do a video on one filter that we found that will do pretty much all of them. And we buy them from Rotary by the 50 pack. Instead of trying to have all these different filters for different machines. And they are directional, and it's not the way you would think, right? Because you would think that it would be the fat end would be towards the tank and the narrow end towards the carburetor, and it's not. On the ones that we use, it actually has an arrow. It says flow. Tells you which direction that fuel will go. And I've seen that happen so many times with customers. The old Kawasaki's and John Deere used to be a doozer. Their machine needed to have a good flow rate, all right? But you couldn't restrict it too much and not enough, or the machine would not run right. But since we instituted that, we've done, hundreds of mowers, and not a one of them come back with going with the one filter. It's kind of an all-purpose filter. Now comes oil, all right? Don't cheapen yourself now. I used to carry the 10W30 Walmart straight brand, and then I would carry the 10W30 full synthetic. Because at the time, most of your machines were running just a regular, right? And the synthetic was quite a bit more. And I had the full synthetic because my side by side was newer, and they were already calling for the full synthetic in that. And over time, the price started getting closer to the point of where I said, you know what? I buy it by the 55-gallon drums. And just go with full synthetic on everything in the shop. All right, when it comes to engine oil. And that way, and stay with one brand, when you're doing oil on your machine. Walmart brand is perfectly fine. But there's an issue, they say. I've never tried it. I don't know what the issue would be. Maybe Jason can help us fill that in, or one of you guys. And that is that they say don't mix Quaker State with Mobile and Walmart. I don't know. But I've always done it that way. I stay with one brand, all right? Again, the key is once a year of doing that. And you should be checking your lawnmower engine oil or your engine oil on any of your equipment every time you use it. And I know that we're all guilty of it. We don't do it as often as we should. But for something that takes just a second to uncap and look, you don't know. Maybe your base is full of gas because it got by the carburetor and it went into the head and into the tank. Well, you wouldn't know that unless you pulled the dipstick and it read way over full, right? And you could smell the gas on it. Now, I've seen them with the bases full of gas and oil start, and they'll smoke like a bugger because the gas has gotten into the oil and thinned it out enough so it's getting by the rings. So by simply checking that before you start it, you can save yourself some frustration of, all right, so now I know that my needle and seat aren't working properly, and I need to drain this, and I need to change the oil filter and the oil in that machine before I use it again. That's why you check it. The other reason is I've seen where, heaven forbid you get I've seen plugs where you change the oil, and little push things in, you push and you pull type thing. I've seen them loosen up. And I'll tell you, a lot of customers' machines come in where that threads in. It's supposed to be snug, and you could turn it with your finger. You can't turn to open it, but you're turning the whole thing inside the hole. And if that comes out enough so it starts leaking oil, and you check the oil before you go to use it, and it reads nothing on the stick, and you checked it the last time you mowed, you need to start figuring out where did that oil go. And that's where I would start, is I would check that where you change your oil, check that to see if that isn't loosened up and is getting by there. Or worse, I've seen like the Kohler commands, single cylinders. What a piece of crap. They were coming through, and the counterbalance in them was actually letting go and going out through the back of the machine. And the operator, if they look at their machine, they wouldn't see it, right? Because it's back in by the steering column, and when it would hit towards mid to upper section, and it would take a big chunk right out of it. And the whole time the engine is running, it's sloshing oil right out that hole. And you wouldn't think it would run with the counterbalance letting go. But I've seen them go and go, and customer comes in complaining that they don't have any power, and you take one look in the whole back side of that engine. If I see a Kohler command come in with any issue, I got a flashlight and I'm looking behind it to see if that counterbalance let go, because it was just a cheap ass engine. If you have a radiator on your lawnmower or your equipment, check it. Make sure the coolant level's where it should be. We're going into fall, and if you're in the colder climates, you want to make sure that you check, because the old style, which we still use, is that little bubble thing. You squeeze the bulb, stick it in, let go, and then it comes up and tell you how cold the temperature can withstand. And I've had customers think that if they pour just straight antifreeze in there, it's better than the mix, and it's not. Straight antifreeze will freeze up. Water will freeze and expand and crack and bust everything. But if we use the 50-50 ratio, you can buy it already pre-mixed. That's perfect, all right? We buy it by the concentrate, and then we mix our own. And you need to check that. Even if you did a spring service on that piece of equipment, you still need to check that radiator before letting it sit in storage through the winter. Because if you do not, and it's not rated high enough, and it gets cold enough, when liquid becomes a solid, what happens? It expands. And it's got to have some place to expand to, right? And that's where you start cracking blocks and everything else. You know, water jackets, radiators, you name it. But it can become very expensive, all right? So check that. Tire pressure. You know, during the winter months, tire pressures will deflate to a certain point. If you have a soft tire going in the fall and you don't inflate those tires, good chances are probably that one's going to come off the bead by spring. So I always check the tire pressures before I put my stuff away, and that just saves me time in the spring of having to either pump tires up or, worse yet, have to tube one or fix one. Grease. I was brought up with the idea that, you know, grease is a heck of a lot cheaper than parts. Doing regular maintenance and greasing equipment will make it last the test of time. When you bring your stuff to us to do a service, we grease the spindles on the deck. We grease the spindles in the front for steering. Anything that's got a grease fitting on, we grease, all right? But with my mower, I grease it throughout the summer while I'm using it, because that's the way I was brought up, is have a grease gun. I've got a battery operated one, and it just takes a second just to grease everything quick. But I got that from farming, you know, with a lot bigger machinery. And like when I go to bale with the round balers, I grease the round balers every day. Whether they need it or not, I give them a couple shots of grease. Because that tube of grease is a heck of a lot cheaper than buying repair parts, because they're all worn out. If you let metal hit metal and work, it'll start getting warm and it'll wear down and oblong. And something's going to give, all right? So, grease the machine during your service. Have that knocked out of the way. Now is a good time to check belts to see if anything is weathered, you know, because you can order the belts, let's say in the winter, if you've got a heated garage you can work in. Your pressure washers and stuff, again, make sure you drain the water out of them if you're going to put them in cold storage and cold temperatures. What I suggest is the cheaper way to go, and that is just go to Tractor Supply or Walmart and get some RV antifreeze. It's the pink, you know, and it's eco-friendly, and you can pour it right into the pressure washer so that it goes in with water hoses. Tip it up, pour it right in, and fill that whole base with that antifreeze and let it push the water out, and that will save you. There's what they call, it's in a can, like an aerosol type thing, and you can pump saver is what it's called, and you can spray that right in and fill the base. But the main thing is to get the water out. And when you put your pressure washer away in the fall, you should unhook the hose that goes to the wand and drain everything all out of that, and unhook the hose that goes from the water to the pump, and then flush it, and then put it away. Leave the wand and the hose unhooked, hang it on the handlebars. Blades. Okay, now is a good time to check your blades, but if you're in sandy loam, you should be checking your blades more often than just during a service. We have some customers that go through 2 to 3 sets of blades in the summer, and it depends on the size of the yard, and it depends on how much sand is there, because sand is like sandpaper, right? And it will sand down those blades, and it'll wear the tips right off. So the high lift now has nothing there, and it will get out of balance, and it will start to take the bearings out of your blade spindles, and it could get costly if you don't keep track of it. So if you do have sand loam, and you know that you're going to go through 2 or 3 sets of blades, buy them early, have them on hand. And when you see one start to get pretty wore, replace all 3. Because if you don't, you're going to have a heavier one against 2 lighter ones, and it will be out of balance. You're going to get a vibration. So what other things are you doing when it comes to a fall service or getting things buttoned up in the fall? We talked the other day about fuel additives, and I used to use Staple. I'll be honest with you, I didn't see the benefits of the cost. Because if you go to using premium fuel, you don't need something air vapor barrier to keep the air from coming in contact with the ethanol, right? I don't have any sponsors. So if I tell you about certain things, it's my personal experience and my personal preference. Doesn't mean to go buy it. It just means something more to think about. And that is the PRI-G. I'll be honest, I was skeptical when you, Jason, had been talking about it. But I'm the kind of person that says, why not? So I ordered a bottle. Or not a little bottle, a big bottle. And so far, what I've done with that is we go through a lot of gas in the summer. For people's equipment, we have 5-gallon gas cans. And what I do is I treat each 5-gallon gas can and then fill it up so it's full, so that all that gas is treated. And I run that through the summer. And the cost benefits, I think, are good, because I think it helps clean the carburetor as well. And not only stabilizes the fuel, and it also allows any water or contaminants to come in contact with it to help it burn better. So you could put that into your arsenal. There are other ones out there, but they tend to be on the expensive side. And if you don't have a fuel shutoff in your system, now is the time to do it. Please do it. Do it somewhere below the tank to where it goes to the carburetor. And when you get done using that, and if you're going to let it sit for 2 or 3 weeks, or all fall and winter, while it's running, shut the fuel off with the fuel shut off. Just get an inline one. They're around $5-6. Allow that machine to run itself dry so that there's no gas in the carburetor and everywhere else, all right? And that keeps it from eating your carburetor and gunking it all up, per se. So back to it. If there's other things that you guys do or that you do that you think really works, post it for all of us to see. Because even at my age, I know squat. And there's so much other stuff to learn. And I can learn from you, from what you do. So on that note, I'm going to kind of end the video for Friday. And you guys work safe. And I want to give a shout out to Master Sergeant in Virginia that called yesterday and was talking to me about a lawnmower problem that he was having. And to the troops that are down there, the troops that are on any of the bases, thank you so much for your service. And this is from a family of military people. I am the military brat. And I know, what you're doing and how your service is very important. And I know what it's like to be, how hard it is, your hardships on you and your family when you're deployed. We don't thank you enough. And this goes for all military. And this goes for even, our police, sheriffs, troopers, DEC, the ENCON, wardens, game wardens. All of you are very special in my heart because you have a difficult job that you have to do. But if you don't do it, then it's going to be chaos everywhere. And don't listen to the little woke crybabies. Silent majority has got your back. So on that note, you guys have a great day.